good to see everybody's beautiful faces here in the land of big blue golden sunshine.
What's up, y'all? I'm Terry Prude. I'm one of your Big Blue Energy ambassadors, and I'm super excited to be here with y'all.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tyler Vazquez. I'm a senior biology major, and I serve as student trustee here at Tennessee State University. So,
Good morning, everyone. I am Dwight DeBarry II, a Big Blue Energy ambassador, hailing all the way from Memphis, Tennessee, majoring in architecture engineering.
And good morning, everyone. I am Gabby Dee. I'm your main host today. And we have an amazing human being with us today. We have representative, pastor, youth advocate, you name it. He's everything. Harold Love. It's such an honor to have you.
Glad to be here. Thank you so very much. I'm very excited about this podcast and the information that'll be yielded from it.
Awesome. And congratulations on your 12th year anniversary.
Yes.
That is
Congratulations.
amazing.
Time has gone by.
It absolutely is, yes. Thank you for your service.
Yes.
In case you didn't know, now you know, Harold Love is a proud TSU alum here at Tennessee State University, class of 1994
And 2017.
and 2017.
All
Don't
right.
play about it, okay?
Not deny me my PhD.
Do not deny. That's
Lord.
superior bragging rights, okay?
For real. As you know, our school is going through some major problems right now, and students share concerns right now about the university's standings. So, how should the students respond to the recent issues the university is facing right now?
Terry, that's a wonderful question. And I would say to all students who will see this podcast and communicate to their colleagues, I would encourage every student to gain as much information as you can about what is going on so you can make an informed decision about what direction to take. By that I mean this. You're going to have a lot of information come to you through newspaper articles, through television interviews, and through just what people say in conversations with you. But you have to do your own research. You have to look at the underfunding at Tennessee State, which is important. But you also must look at the administration of what is given to Tennessee State and look at those two sides of that and ask yourself the question about what does that mean and talk very seriously about what impact that's had upon your own academic pursuit. I will say this to you. I'm working hard every day to ensure that Tennessee State is successful. I have a personal stake in making sure that TSU is successful and provides a great opportunity for all students getting a great education. So first thing, again, is research. Yeah. And I say that because you're natural researchers, you're students, right? You know how to go and look online and find information, go to the library. But in this case, gather as much information you can and then distill what is not true and what is true. And an unfortunate thing is that some stuff out there just is not true because people are taking different sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely do your guys' research. We all have to. We're students at TSU. We need to know what's going on with our university. So I highly agree with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
How can we, Mr. Love, how can we distinguish whether or not the information that we're gathering is fiction or nonfiction?
That is a great question. What I've discovered is this. When something is not driven by the data, there's a possibility that it may not necessarily be true.
Right.
And just to address one of the elephants in the room, there were accusations made or suggestions made in the most recent State Building Commission meeting that the downtown campus should be sold to generate enough money to keep the school open. Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is this. The data does not suggest that that's the case, right? The data really suggests that there are opportunities to look at a location near the downtown campus to actually be developed. You may not know about this, but there is a business incubation center right across the street from the downtown campus. A lot of entrepreneurs have started their business through the incubation center, but in the last, I'll say, 6 to 8 years, it has just not functioned as best as it could. Mm-hmm. So that's a great opportunity. Imagine what it would look like if Tennessee State partnered with some entity to build a structure that has an incubation center at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And then primarily reaches out to Tennessee State students to say, if you have a bright idea about a business, right, you go in and you start your business there. Well, that takes money, but that's what's called public-private partnerships, or 3P. This is what Tennessee State could do in that particular location. That's right across. Next time you all go downtown campus, you're going to see it. When you drive to the downtown campus, on your left-hand side is Avon Williams campus, but on the right-hand side is this building. That's the Business Incubation Center.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so there's an opportunity to use that building to allow someone else to invest in that, and then TSU get the land lease off of that and generate income off of that. So that's why I say data-driven, right? To look at what is true or what is just being put out there. And unfortunately, people sometimes just resend information without even checking it.
That's true.
There's a difference between there is misinformation and then there's disinformation.
Yeah.
Misinformation is when I receive something that someone sends to me, and without even checking it, I retweet it, right? Or I retext it, right? TSU is out of money. Well, if TSU was out of money, these lights wouldn't be on.
Hello.
Right? If it were out of money. Now, are there some financial issues to address? Absolutely. But to say we're out of money, right? TSU can't make payroll. If TSU was not making payroll, people would not be here working.
Yeah.
Now, there may be some difficulties that indicate that it could have some issues with it, but that's different from out of money, can't make payroll. And so that's how you distill the truth from fiction, is look at what is the data, what is true, or what may just be something someone's sending out. And again, misinformation is when we just send stuff out without checking it. Disinformation is when we intentionally send it back out and we know it's wrong. And so be careful about stuff that's sent to you and the source. I'm on Facebook and I'm following the comments, and a gentleman comments into the section and says, they've already cut the deal to sell TSU. So I respond, sir, when was that deal cut?
Right.
Clock it in the
Where's the
comments.
fact?
He responds, oh, I wasn't saying it was. I was just saying they probably are. I said, no, you said.
You said what you said.
You said what you said.
Right? And so I don't oftentimes get into that space, but I do sometimes because I'm trying to combat disinformation. And so he said, well, they're not going to give him the money. I said, how do you know? I just know. Okay, so do you work downtown? No. Are you in the legislature? No. So how do you know? Well, I just feel like that's different. Feel like, and I know is different.
Yes.
And that's how you help distill fact from fiction also, when you talk about what you know versus what you feel like.
Absolutely.
Ooh, that's good.
No, I really like that. So one question I guess I had for you is, how are we going to be able to make this information that, students are obviously researching what's going on, right? And whether or not you find it to be correct or not, or whether or not the data that you're actually finding is correct or not. At the end of the day, it needs to be spread out in some kind of way, form, or fashion. That could be through this podcast, that could be through social media, whatever the case is. What would you say would be an accessible route to go, not only just for students, but also just the TSU community as a whole, in order to be able to share information like this? Is it just strictly going on the legislation's website, looking at the General Assembly? Is it just attending board meetings? Is it some other form or fashion? Or do you think that there's another way to be able to kind of make it a little bit more accessible for students that might not want to go to these meetings? And, I have to go to them, when they're scheduled, and sometimes I'm confused. It's like, how do we kind of make that a little bit more accessible for the average student here at Tennessee State and then the wider TSU community?
Very good question. And I'll say this. There's a role for the administration to play. There's a role for the National Alumni Association to play. There's a role for each alumni chapter to play. And there's a role for students to play in, again, disseminating the true information. There's also an opportunity for the SGA to play a particularly good role in communicating to students the facts. The truth of the matter also is this. We cannot have a long dissertation in the explanation.
Right.
We'll have to have bullet points to say, here are the facts, and then repeat the information, right? And that's one way to also spread it, because you can't have some of the conversation I have, which may be 20 minutes with somebody, and expect students to distill all that and sit through all that. Also, you can't expect alums to do that. And so I would say that one way could be through this podcast. And then I'm going to talk to administration about what they plan to do to also disseminate the information. And I've already been in conversation with the National Alumni Association president about doing something like we did a few years ago. A few years ago, when we first discovered the huge amount of underfunding. You always knew that there was underfunding, but once I got to chair a committee that discovered how much the underfunding was, we had a webinar called Far From Normal. And that was done to let alums know that this is how much was discovered, what the plans were to try to recoup those funds, and what they really looked at and what it meant, because it's a lot of information. And so that's one way to also do that. And I've talked to the Alumni Association president about doing that also, about having a webinar for the alumni associations to distill the information. So students can get it from this podcast. I would suggest that you all as ambassadors also, once you get the information, and I don't mind giving you those bullet points to tell students that they can then spread that, and it will spread, right? Once you give students facts that aren't based in just my own fiction, right? Not me just saying, oh, it's going to be all right, but then not backing up with facts.
Right.
But to be able to say, Representative Love told us that these things are being done in an effort to make sure that things are going to be okay. Because at the conclusion of the day, the university is here for students.
Yes.
It's about your education.
That's true.
It's about preparing you to go out and transform and change the world. And so everybody is in on this understanding, right? That we are here to help you all get to where I am. Because somebody helped me get to where I am. Somebody caught me when I was in your classification of your grade and helped me get to the place I am. And so that's what we have to do. I'm dedicated to that. I'm not going to stop working for it. I'm going to keep on encouraging others and also informing others and equipping others with what we need to help you all. And so that's my commitment to it. And I think that's the best way to spread the information. There has to be, we open up with prayer, right? There has to be some good news,
Has to be.
right? Amid all the despair, we have to give people hope. And again, not hope just based upon how I feel, but the good news, that these are things being done. That other piece about it for students, I would say this. When you have conversation with people, if all they're talking about is the bad news, right, then try to inject some good news.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Try to remind folks that there is an army of TSU alums out there who are not going to allow this thing to go the wrong way. I would say, though, there's a place as a trustee or for your SJ representatives or some students who want to do it. Everybody can't, but some may want to. Actually call some of my colleagues, and I don't mind giving you a list of folks who you should call. And as a student, approach them in the right manner and say this, listen, my name is Harold Love, and I'm a junior at Tennessee State University. I'm an economics and finance major, and I've been watching the news, and I've been seeing what's being said. And I know that you said you are committed to the success of my university.
Right.
Can you tell me that come January, you will do everything you possibly can in your power to ensure that TSU is sound both academically and financially? And can you commit also to investing in this state institution financially?
Right.
Ask that question that way and get a response. That's different from charging down there and saying other things.
Right.
I think you may find you get a different answer that way.
Now, just out of curiosity, do you have any students that do show that interest as of right now?
I've had some students say to me, what can we do? And I've said to them the same thing, that they can make calls to my colleagues and ask the question, but also encourage them to use the right approach.
Right.
Because even in anger, you can ask the right way and get a different response. I'm always one who thinks about how is what I'm asking going to be received? How is what I'm asking going to be misinterpreted? And I try to avoid as many times as I can for my words to be misinterpreted. I try to diffuse the situation and bring the levels down. I'll have folks who inbox me, and they'll be here. They come in like that, right?
Come in hot.
And so, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. It's okay. I said, I hear what you're saying. Thank you for contacting me. The issue you're raising, I promise you I'll look into it. Are you aware of these things that I've already done? And it brings it down. I didn't know you did that. I appreciate what you're saying. May I ask another question? Yes, you can, because somebody has to bring down the temperature.
Yeah.
Right? And you can be concerned And you can be angry, right? But I think sometimes it's about how you state it that evoke a different response. That's been my experience.
That's rich.
Thank
That's
you.
really real. Thank you for that. That was a lot of information. Hope y'all are keeping notes. Bring out your note cards.
Lord.
Now let's really get to the nitty and the
Sure.
gritty. There's a lot of talk. There's a 2.1 billion. There's the 544 million.
Yeah.
There's so many large amounts
Sure.
of money that we are lacking. What do you say about at least the 544 million that the state hasn't
Sure.
allocated to us?
Let me get to the $544 million. That amount of money was discovered as I built upon my father's research in 1970. In 1970, my father discovered that TSU, out of the $4,500,000 that the state received for the 2 land grants, TSU got $55,000. He and Representative Alvin King out of Memphis worked on a committee to look at TSU's underfunding. So when I got elected in 2012, I got contacted by Dr. Reddy about the fact that the underfunding had not been equalized, that the match hadn't been made. And so I embarked on this project to work on the match. We got the full match in 2016, which meant that going forward, TSU's ag program was going to be fully funded. But then I asked the question, what about the years prior? So in 2020, I was appointed chair of a committee, and we researched and discovered that from 1957 to 2020, there was $544 million of money that should have been coming to Tennessee State that did not. And it had a great impact upon the university because when that money was not given to the school had to put the money up to keep receiving the federal money. That's how matches work, right? The federal government will send down money, and they'll say, okay, we're sending you this. You must match that to keep what we sent down. Right. And so the greater impact of TSU's underfunding was building maintenance was not kept up, student scholarships were not maintained at the level they could have been because of that. That $544 million, we know that there is law that says you must match it 1-to-1. Right. After that, of course, we got an infusion of $250 million to address infrastructure. And then some years later, the Biden administration sent out letters to the various states and said that there's a gap between what was funded. Now, the $2 billion needs to be understood this way. It wasn't that TSU had $2 billion taken from it. It was that TSU received this amount of money and UT received this amount of money.
Huh. And we're both land grant schools,
right? And the gap between is $2 billion. Right. And that's sometimes not explained properly because people think that there was $2 billion that was taken from TSU that was given to UT, or there was $2 billion that TSU should have gotten that UT got instead. But these are state appropriations, and it really boils down to the amount of money per student that they receive. And so some can make the argument that TSU's programs were not as robust. We've made the argument that our programs are as robust, but the approach to acquire the $2 billion is not the same approach as the $544 million. Because it's clear that the law says that there's a dollar-for-dollar match required for the 544. The $2 billion, because of the way the law is written, it's not as clear. And I've told people that you can get the $544 million and begin work to get the $2 billion, but you may have to begin that work in different space. You may have to get that approach to be different. I know that in Georgia they brought a lawsuit that has now been withdrawn. Florida A&M had a lawsuit that got dismissed around the same pot of money. And so my concern is about what can we get today? Maryland had a lawsuit that yielded $577 million. The University of Maryland Eastern Shore and other HBCUs. But what folks don't know, this is why research is important, is that it took almost 15 years to settle that lawsuit.
Wow.
And then the payout was over 10 years. And the requirement is that if they don't spend the money that they get in that year, it goes back into the general fund of the state. So there are nuances, right? That's why I tell folks, do your research and understand that can we sue the state? Possibly. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But I do know that sometimes that is a longer route to take, and it yields different results than you think.
Gotcha.
That's good. That's real good. And I'm glad that you mentioned UT Knoxville, because it has me wondering, like, what do you think is the disconnect between the state and TSU? Because they're both land-grant schools.
Sure. UT Knoxville has always been seen as a different school than any other school in the state. Whether you're talking about University of Memphis, MTSU, Austin Peay, Tennessee Tech, and TSU as a land-grant. UT Knoxville has always been seen as the flagship university of the state, period.
Right. Yeah.
In my research, I've discovered that at one point in time in the state's history, there was a special provision made to have a property tax levied on all businesses and all property in the state for the benefit of just UT.
Wow.
Right? And so I want folks to understand that when we're talking about UT is a whole other entity. They get more money than anybody else in the state.
Yeah.
Their endowment is bigger than all of the 1890 land grants combined. Right? But that's UT. Now, that does not mean that because they're UT that we should not have our fair share of land grant dollars. It means the exact opposite, that we should. I think for many years the state did not view TSU as a land grant, did not view TSU as a equal partner in the land grant mission, which is why at the very beginning TSU did not receive all of its money, which is why UT is in 95 counties doing extension work, but TSU is in less than 60 because the money was not invested there. Which is why the UT cooperative extension agents were getting more money than the TSU extension agents because that's how they viewed UT as the flagship university, and they funded it the way they wanted to. It's not fair. It's not right. But that's what we work on, is getting equity for the university. And sometimes equity looks like, if you know that $1 billion or $2 billion or $3 billion is owed, then maybe your first ask is for $500 million. And I know we got some alums who say, they owe us, they should get it all right now.
They is me overnight. I need to see in the checking account.
Right. So in a perfect world, I agree.
Yeah.
But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where people have their own emotion to do things, right? In a perfect world, we wouldn't have other things going on like we do. But we try to fix this as best we can.
Thank you, Representative Love. At this point, I want to ask, on behalf of all of the students and staff here at Tennessee State University, what is going on with our funding for the students and for our administration?
So when you say the funding, you're talking about from the state or what's happening on the campus?
I mean, we can address both.
Okay. So as we talked about the underfunding of the university, many of you know that $250 million was given to TSU in 2022 for infrastructure improvements. And with the change of the board and the change of the administration, the new administration came in and discovered that there were some things that were going on that did not increase revenue, but instead decrease revenue. Students, and you will know this from looking at your own accounts, students, you all were allowed to carry balances when that should not have been the case. Some students were not required to be put on a payment plan and were allowed to enroll even though they had balance of $10,000 and $20,000. And they were allowed to enroll every semester. They were allowed to keep taking classes. And they were allowed to stay in school without addressing their account balance. So now students came in this semester and the new administration said, you have a balance. You can't enroll until you pay this balance off. And I think that caused some consternation, some anger for some students because they were allowed to enroll previously and now they weren't allowed.
Yeah.
You also have some instances where students that had finished school technically, right, because they walked across the stage but had not gotten degrees, owed money. And now they're trying to figure out how do they get that rectified, how do they pay that back. The difficulty with that is if you have a balance, you can't transfer with your transcript because you can't say, I'm not going to come back and then get my transcript, and you still have to pay that balance. So you have decreased revenues. If you all remember when we had the housing crisis, hotels were rented, what students may not understand is there was no profit being made from those hotels. Matter of fact, the university was losing money The university was renting the hotels and then getting the housing fees from the students, but that was not enough to pay for the hotel.
Wow.
So you're losing money renting the hotel.
Yeah.
Now you're having to pull from the reserves to balance the budget. Again, you're decreasing revenues and decreasing savings, but your expenditures are still high. There were also instances where students were told, if you take classes online and you're out-of-state student, you won't be charged tuition.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was, yeah.
That was told to students. I just deal in data. I just deal with the facts, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So again, you got a student, you got Harold Love in school, taking online courses. I should be paying $10,000 a semester, but I'm not because I've been told I don't have to. That's decreased revenue.
Right.
That's insane.
So now you have revenue that keeps decreasing, and you keep pulling from the savings, right? To keep things where they are, and now you have a situation where you're out of savings.
Right. And that sounds like it's also contributing to students who are promised scholarships,
Yep.
and they weren't given any
Yeah.
scholarships. Yeah.
So we have evidence, and this was in part of the audit, that Tyler has been promised a scholarship, and he has a $10,000 balance. Money was put on his account. He has a zero balance. We get past the purge date. Scholarship taken off his account.
Right.
Wow.
Yes, and now he has a $10,000 balance. And he doesn't know that until the
'Cause
next
you thought you had the
semester.
scholarship.
Right. So now you say, well, what happened to my scholarship? Well, it was put on and taken off. Well, now I got a $10,000 balance.
That someone has to pay.
Somebody has to pay. And now I'm upset because I had a scholarship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw you put it on,
But then y'all take it
Literally.
away.
And
but you
now
then
it's
took it back off. We also have a situation where in-state students were being charged as out-of-state students.
Wow.
And that's
Oh.
still happening to some degree.
So now you got a student who should be paying $4,000 with Hope Scholarship and other things,
Right.
but I got a $15,000 or $20,000 charge on my account.
Really? Wow.
So that's what's happening. So as you, again, decrease revenues, but expenses keep increasing, you keep pulling from savings, and then you run out of savings. Then you start to say, okay, we still have these employees because 71% of the school's budget was salaries.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you got these employees, you got these students, you got students who were promised scholarships, didn't get them, so I'm not coming back this semester. Decrease enrollment.
Enrollment, yeah.
You got a student who says, well, I got a $20,000 balance, I can't pay that this semester. I'm not coming this semester. Decrease enrollment. So it's a perfect storm of decreased enrollment because of promises that were made and things that were done, still increased expenditures, and now you have to say, okay, how do we then keep the school functioning properly financially? That's where the cuts were made for some terminations of employees.
So coming off of the employee terminations, I read in like the Tennessean, the News Channel 5 articles about the past administration's salary still being paid on contract while we're still in the financial deficit. What's that about? There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of hoopla, as you can say.
Yeah, I have not researched that properly. I did hear about that. I was surprised. I don't know what that is all about. But I do know that there are persons now who are aware of it and looking into it to see what's going on with that. I will say this also. I think it's important to note that once we found out about this deficit in the university's accounts, the first suggestion that was made was, reduce expenditures, that's the terminations. But then people floated the idea out there, can you sell property to get the money? That's where the idea for selling Avon Williams was suggested, not by us, but by others. Right? In the midst of that, my suggestion was, well, the schools received this $250 million and was never spent. Be clear about that.
Right. Okay.
The school received $250 million
Never spent.
and was never
I'm glad to
used.
clear that up.
All right. So my suggestion was, let's take $50 million of that and vote to use that for operating expenditures rather than capital.
Right.
That would take too long. That would take us getting back in session in January, voting on in February.
And by then,
Who knows, right? So we discovered that there was actually money allocated from federal dollars, from the ARPA funds, for TSU to have an agriculture building built. It was $32 million. So that money's sitting there, ready today. So the decision was made to convert that money to operating funds.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that $32 million went in.
Gotcha.
And we're going to transfer the ag building to pull from the 250.
Gotcha.
So you still get the building,
Right.
But now you get this cash infusion right now, which allows everything to be fine, which allows the school to be open in the spring semester, to operate in the spring semester, and everything to be fine as we still work on more solutions.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. There's so much clarity in this conversation.
Yeah, 'cause I know a lot of folks like, well, is the school going to be open?
Well, we open.
Right.
We're still
Stop
gonna
the
be here,
apocalypse,
y'all.
people, okay?
And so that infusion was done to get us to that place where when we get back in January, we're also more relaxed, right? And we have more time to work out a long-term solution. But that's what that $32 million. I know some folks saying, well, why $32 million? Why not 50? Because that's what we set aside for this building, right?
Yes.
And we could say, okay, this is cash.
Right.
We can convert this immediately to, right? And then switch the building to pull from the 250 now.
Representative, I have a question about TSU's future.
Sure.
And TSU has faced a ton of challenges in the past years.
Yeah.
But I want to know some steps that the state, rather, is taking to basically increase our confidence in the university's financial health, academic standing, and long-term vision, to say the least.
Very good. And I'm trying to pull up something I sent some colleagues the other day, just as a reminder
Right.
of
Got the receipts.
Right, the
of
receipts.
Got the
what
receipts.
of what we have gotten. Just for an example. So, first thing is this: I want to reiterate my commitment to Tennessee State. You all don't know this, but I'm gonna tell you now, just to give you how connected I am to Tennessee State. My grandmother was a student here in 1915, when it was a normal school.
19.
My father's mother, Lillian C. Love. My father graduated from TSU. My mother worked here for 57 years,
Wow.
directing the program called Upward Bound. I grew up on the campus, right? I literally grew up in Goodwill Manor and in the A building and in the women's building and in the Humphreys building
Wow.
because my mother's office kept moving, right?
Yeah.
True TSU legacy.
Yeah, all around the campus, right? I remember when there was a street going through the campus, when there was a bridge over the campus. My mother graduated from TSU. My sisters graduated from TSU. I used to march over that bridge when we had the games in the hole, when I was marching the band.
Now, I keep hearing about this bridge. Where was this bridge
Right.
at?
You can see it if you can. It ends right there where Goodwill Manor is, and it picks up right there where the student center begins to start. Like so from the humanities building, that path that you walk up to Goodwill Manor,
Yes.
that's where the bridge was.
Oh, wow.
And so the street came through where the amphitheater is.
You learn something new every day.
So
I mean,
so
for
you
real, I
can
didn't
imagine
know
that, right?
bridge.
That's where the street went through.
Wow.
From where the student center is, where you pull into the circle, that was the street. So that's my commitment, right? I work every day to ensure that the school's going to still be here because it helped me become who I am. My parents met here, and their life was changed forever. And so we talk about state appropriations. That's the basic funding for the school, right? But in 2016, we got that extra funding to equalize our state match. That was an extra $1 million. Then we had in let me find here, my notes, so y'all bear with me. My notes here. Then we had an extra $800,000 given to our McMinnville Research Station, which is a place everyone should visit when they get the chance. That was $800,000 given then. And in addition to that, we had in 2018, $2 million given, get this, to keep students off the purge list.
Wow.
That was in
That's a beautiful thing.
2018.
Okay.
Then we also had, and I apologize, I should have been prepared with this, but I think it's important to bring this up because people, again, may not know. Oh, I got it right here. I'm so sorry. All right. So 2016 land grant match, $1 million extra. That's on top again of the state appropriation. 2019, $800,000 recurring, which means it's in the budget every year to McMinnville Station. $2 million one time for the purge list. 2021, $5 million given to the foundation for student scholarships.
Okay.
Right. Then in 2022, the $250 million for strategic initiatives. Also, 2022, $60 million for new engineering building, and of course, 2022, $32 million for the new agriculture building. Right. So that's just an example of the investments that have been made, to your point, to keep TSU going the right fiscal manner. Academically, I believe the last year the state approved 2 programs for the university to have 2 new degree programs. And so, the language we have to use sometimes is the state of Tennessee employees and other workers are doing their very best to help the university be successful because this is a state university. Are there some people who favor another institution over another one? Probably so, just because that's human nature, right? There's some people would not see the value of Tennessee State like we do, and part of our job is to educate them about the greatness at Tennessee State. Every chance I get, I remind my colleagues that they wouldn't have a cell phone to operate if it were not for a TSU graduate named Jesse Russell. Every time I get a chance, I tell them that, right? I told somebody yesterday that. They were talking to me about coding. And I said, your phone works because of Jesse Russell, a black man from North Nashville who went to TSU, and their eyes lit up. I said, yeah, look it up, right? So that's what we have to also do is remind people about the greatness that comes out, that you all are great and that you all are the next generation of great leaders who are going to come out. That's what the state is doing.
Amazing.
Thank you. Nevertheless, Tennessee State is here to stay.
Yep.
Yes, we here to stay.
So y'all can unpack your bags. We ain't going nowhere.
All right, I'm opening the floor for any closing remarks, closing questions.
I don't got nothing. I mean, this has been a very rich conversation. I mean, this has cleared up a lot of those false narratives and a lot of those different rumors. This has been great, and we really appreciate you coming here and just clearing it up.
Clearing it up.
Yeah.
Dwight?
Representative Harold Love,
Sure.
it's always a pleasure speaking with you, being mentored by you. Man, we love you at Tennessee State University. The legacy that your family's name is rich in our souls at the great land of golden sunshine. And man, we appreciate you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Tyler?
No, just wanted to say thank you all for allowing me to be here, kind of in this presence. Very excited about that, and obviously being able to speak with Representative Love again. It's always a pleasure. So, thank you so much for your insight, for your words of encouragement for TSU. So yeah, it's greatly appreciated. Sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Do I get last words?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I thought you said your last words.
Wow. No, let me thank you all. Let me thank the students for your persistence and your perseverance. You should not have to be going through this, but you are. But I would remind you that for such a time as this, you were born, that you can tell the story after you've graduated from Tennessee State and give back to the university, that in one of the darkest hours, you stuck with the school stuck with you, and you all came together. I want to give Tyler credit for the fact that he reached out to me even before any of this happened, when he was just coming on to trustee, and he set up an appointment with me to talk about what could he do. So you got a great leader here as your trustee who was intentional about finding out before any of this happened what he could do to help further the cause of students. So thank you for the podcast. Thank you for a chance to bring information to the students. I look forward to coming back after we get past this moment to talk about what we knew was fact that came true, right? What we knew was fiction that did not, right? And celebrate that we all working together to do this. So thank you for letting me in the Love Building do this podcast.
For such a time as this.
With such a time as this. Well, thank you guys so much for spending your time with us today. Catch you on the next one.